Okay, so I think we're going to get started, everyone. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn webinar series. This one is going to be about Latino culture and assimilation. The lovely Claudia and Caitlin will be presenting to you. So a couple little housekeeping items before we start. Make sure you type in chat or the Q&A if you have any questions. And either me or Caitlin or Claudia will see it and we'll try to answer it as quickly as we can. Also, there is a pre and post evaluation that I sent in an email out to all of you, and fill that out at the end of the webinar, and you'll be entered into the running for a $50 Amazon gift card. So hopefully your odds are good. There's not a ton of people, so there's a good chance you might get the $50 gift card. And also, if you are interested in receiving the 1 CEU for this webinar, you have to fill out that evaluation as well. So without further ado, I'll let Claudia share her screen and we can get started.
All right, so welcome to the Latino Culture and Assimilation presentation. I am Claudia Ruz, and I am the bilingual family partner at Harvest Family Success Center. We are under the umbrella of Prevention Resources, and I work closely with the Hispanic Latino community here in Hunterdon County, specifically in Flemington. And it's been an honor for me to be able to work closely with them. So we jump right into it, and we begin with the first part, which is the differences between Latino and Hispanics. Now, these both terms are used all the time, everywhere. Every time that you want to register for something, every time you want to sign up for something, every time you want to buy something or get a credit card or go to DMV, there is that box that says white, Black, and then Hispano or Latino, right? And being Hispanic or Latino has nothing to do with race. It has to do with ethnicity. And I know it can be a little bit confusing. So in this graphic, I'm going to explain what each term is. And we're going to start with the pink circle that is says Latino, right? Latino has to do with language and with geography. Right? The countries that you see listed here are Brazil, French Guiana, Guadalupe, Haiti, Martinique, St. Bart's, and St. Martin. Now, these are countries that geographically are in the Latin America continent, but they do not speak Spanish. They speak French or they speak Portuguese. And they come, and the term Latino is that is the mother language, right? Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian, they come from Latin, is the mother language. So that's why also the term Latinos, because they speak a language that comes from Latin, but also has to do with geography. Now, on the gray circle, we see the Hispanic side. And Hispanic comes with the Latin Hispania, which is Spain, and is that connection that countries have with Spain or the Iberian Peninsula. And you can see the countries there, again, Brazil, French Guiana, Guadalupe, Haiti, Martinique, St. Barth, and St. Martin are not Hispanic, but they don't speak Spanish. They are in the continent, but they do not speak Spanish. In the middle, where the two merge, you can see the countries are both Latino and Hispanic, right? And I am from El Salvador, so I am both. I am Latino and I am Hispanic. So again, just to review it, Latino and Hispanic have nothing to do with race. It's about ethnicity, and it's about geography, and it's about the language. And I hope that this makes gives some clarity to you when you see someone saying, oh, what are you when you ask someone? And if they say Latino, it's because they are from the Latin America continent. And when they say Hispanic, is okay, I'm a Latino, but I also, it's because I speak Spanish. On the next slide, what do you think are the major differences between Latino Hispanic and non-Latino Hispanics? Well, obviously the language, but I think that the most important difference is the culture, right? The way we Hispanics do things, the way we behave, the way we raise our children, the dynamics in the family are one of the biggest differences between this group and other groups. One of the biggest examples could be celebrations. Latinos and Hispanic mostly we celebrate Christmas, as do Americans that are not Hispanics. One of the differences is that we Hispanics and Latinos, we celebrate mostly Christmas Eve, and Americans celebrate Christmas Day. It is the same holiday, but it's the way we celebrate it that is the difference, right? And also, Mexicans celebrate Dia de los Muertos. And in Spain, also, they don't, but they celebrate All Souls Day. It's kind of similar, but it's not the same. And instead of Christmas, they exchange presents on King's Day, which is January 6th. So that's one of the differences also amongst the groups. Do you think that Hispanic and Latinos have differences among themselves? Yes, we do. Although we share the same language, we have many different accents, right? Just like in the US, someone from Texas might have a strong accent compared to someone from Massachusetts, or a person from South Carolina and someone from the Bronx, New York. Same in Latin America, we all have different accents. And living here in the US can give us the opportunity to learn and kind of like our ear becomes aware. After a couple of minutes of speaking with someone, we can tell, oh, I know where this person is from. Now, I am not an expert, but I am getting pretty close. And, you know, it's a nice connection to have with people that as soon as we start talking, we know, oh, you're from Colombia, or oh, you're from Mexico. And yeah, that is one of the biggest differences that we have is the accent. And there's other ones as well. The music, for example. Latinos from the Caribbean, they have different instruments. They might have the drums. In Mexico, they have the mariachi bands. In South America, Brazilians have the samba. In Argentina, they have the tango. And they're all very different. So yeah, that's one of the biggest differences in music. And a fun fact is that salsa music, people think that it's a Latin, yeah, it's from Latin America, but it's actually was born here in the US. Salsa music was born in New York City. At the same time that the disco movement was happening, the disco music, salsa music was being created here in the US with the influence of all those different types of music from Latin America. So that's a fun fact. Also, we also have different holidays. Some of us, like in Mexico and Central America, we share the same Independence Day, but it's not the same with Panama or Colombia or Peru and Ecuador. They have their own history and their own Independence Day. Most holidays are the same, but you know, one that I can think of that is very different is Mother's Day. Most of Latin countries, Mother's Day is May 10th, and some countries is in, I think it's July 26th. So it's not because we share the same language and most of the traditions, but some are very, very different as well. Food can be a big one. Mexico is very rich in food, as is Colombia and in Brazil. But also we have our differences. Mexico and Central America, we have tamales. Everybody knows tamales, right? But how you season them, what you add to them, it can be chicken, it can be pork, it can be the size that is different. So we also have our differences in food as well as in music. In the Caribbean, the islands also, they have the way they eat, and it's could be different as well, and not necessarily with the same seasoning. So what do I think that happens to a child that is raised in this country, but when it comes to celebrating two different holidays, like the Dia de los Muertos versus Halloween? And I think that there are two types of immigrants. That one group of immigrants, they come to this country and say, well, we're going to become Americans. We are not going to speak Spanish. We're going to forget about that and just get into the culture of the Americans, and we're just going to become one, right? And it can be another group of Hispanic and Latinos and say, I am not going to even bother learning the language. I don't need to. I don't have to. I'm in my bubble, right? I'm with this group of people that share my language. I go to the store and everybody speaks Spanish there. I go to the post office and they also speak Spanish there, so I don't have to. And I think these are two extremes. And it all comes to a balance. There's no a rule that says that you have to give up something in order to learn something new. And I think that children that are in school right now, that are born here, or even they come at young age, have this great opportunity of keeping their traditions, keeping their language, and learn new ones. Why not? They only enrich themselves with more. And I hope that this is the part that we as community workers and community partners can honor that, can honor that tradition, can honor their language, and say that is wonderful, keep it. But at the same time, we have to learn the way of life in the US. And we just expand and just become a more cohesive, a better and bigger community. Immigrants in the US, they come to this country for a better opportunity, for the American dream. We all do it, and not only from Latin America, from other countries as well. When Latinos come here, they encounter a big culture shock, right? And goes beyond just the language. It's become, it's the culture and how we do things here. Everything in the US is in an application, a process, a step that sometimes they don't have in their own countries, right? Immigrants have become the biggest minority group in the US. The Latino immigrants have become, so we're here to stay. We are here to keep our traditions, to keep our language, and also learn. So I hope you can it make a little bit clearer for you what the differences between Hispanic and Latino are, and how to be more compassionate with this group, how to honor their traditions, and how to guide them how to live in this country. I'm going to pass it now to Caitlin.
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin Vasquez. I'm an intern here at Prevention Resources. I'm actually doing my MSW at Rutgers University. I'm also a case manager at Tri-County CMO, so I do work with Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren counties, especially with the bilingual families. So now we're kind of gonna get into like the second half of the presentation, kind of talking about now tying it all together to assimilation and the challenges that Latino and Hispanics may face when trying to assimilate into this country. So one big thing, so from research that we've done, we've realized that there's two different responses of like why people aren't assimilating, right? So leaders and advocates can claim that America is not a very inclusive society, and it doesn't really want other ethnic groups to become part of the mainstream of the American culture or be fully integrated in American life. While alternatively, there's other claims that just saying that, it's the people, ethnic groups don't want to assimilate. They don't want to lose part of their culture and their identity and, and something that's so embedded in their self-esteem and lose that just, to please other people in the American culture to make it ahead. But then also research trends show that immigrants and ethnic groups that come into the American culture today are not assimilating as much or as quickly as they were in prior years. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. All right, next slide. So I kind of want to put this question in the chat. I'll give it like a couple seconds. If no one answers, that's okay. But what do you think assimilation means? Or what do you think assimilation looks like when you think of an assimilated person? What are things that you look for? We'll give it a couple seconds, see if anyone responds. Becoming part of a group. That's a good answer. Okay. Thank you for answering, Rosalind. So assimilation, kind of oh, wait, there's more. Assimilation to mean adjustment within a culture. That's a really good answer too. Thank you. Okay. So now with, just the dictionary definition of assimilation, it is a process in which a minority group or culture adapts to society's majority group or assumes their values, behaviors, beliefs of another group. So essentially with this, you do have to be fully integrated into what in this case would be the American culture. But then also I feel like we blur the lines between two different ideas, and I'll get into it into the next slide. And that's between assimilation and this term called acculturation. Claudia, can you switch to the next slide, please? Thank you. So then acculturations is a way for them to retain their own culture within a minority group, but then also adapt some values from the majority group. Because, there definitely are some changes. And as Claudia was saying, the culture shock of people come from one country into another. So of course they do have to kind of adapt into a new environment. But that's mainly with like acculturation as well. Kind of letting them keep their culture, but have some aspects just even for survival instinct, just to survive in the American life. While assimilation is fully immersing yourself into the American culture and kind of losing part of yourself. But historically, and acculturation kind of has changed throughout the years, it was when ethnic groups unlearned their like inferior culture-based behaviors, but now it's adapted into this new way. All right, but we'll kind of talk more about assimilation since this is what the presentation is about. So the history of assimilation, it really started with the European immigrant groups in the 19th and early 20th centuries. These groups were expected to make, major accommodations and kind of adapt all values and norms, especially if they were coming from like collectivist cultures, kind of come into individualistic cultures, this Protestant way of being and core belief and values that you have to be a hard worker to get to make it in life, to achieve the American dream. You have to be a hard worker, and you have to kind of just adapt to saying that no one's going to give you handouts, no one is going to help you. You have to make it on your own, or if you don't, then you don't. And society thought that immigrants were really cleansed once they had entry into like these social clubs, institutions, cliques, and jobs that were deemed worthy of like high class society. And that's kind of the history of assimilation has been. So what people think assimilation looks like, because, oh, sorry, there were some questions. Oh no. So what people think assimilation looks like. People really think assimilation is like a clear cookie cutter, like you can tell who's assimilated and who isn't. And that it's just, this is all you have to do and you'll be fine in American society. So first they have to accept English as a national language. So they have to learn English. You have to, learn English. So if you come here with children, to speak to the teachers, and, enroll in school to get a good job, you have to learn the language. If you want to further your education, you also have to learn the language. And that's kind of like the first step of what assimilation looks like. But there's also challenges that come with expecting that from someone. And we'll kind of get into that a little later. Then they're expected to live by, the societal norms, like we were saying, that they just have to be a hard worker. And, as long as they work hard, they'll do well. And then they have to take pride in the American identity and believe in American democracy. So the minute they come in, they're expected to kind of just love the culture that they're in and kind of disregarding the culture that they came from. But as Claudia said, there are two different types of immigrant groups, but so, I mean, it works for some and it doesn't work for others. All right, so the challenges I was talking about. So then it's the language and the cultural differences that we've kind of gone into a little bit already. The laws and the rules and the societal do's and don'ts. There's a lot of laws here, stuff that may be illegal here, maybe we're not illegal back in their country. Also developmentally, there are a lot of different challenges in what people even look for developmentally in their children or in their beliefs or, because as we keep saying, their values. So it's kind of a culture shock, as Claudia said, when they come here and realize what they can and cannot do. Stuff that were completely okay back in their country may not be okay here. Jobs, sometimes there's no jobs for immigrant families, especially for those who don't know the language. So which jobs are they going to get? Or if they here with children, how are they going to juggle, providing for their children while having a job, while also, trying to take care of their children? Affordable housing and healthcare. As we know, immigrants don't have access to healthcare because they're not citizens. So what happens on top of everything else that they have to worry about, and their child gets sick, or they get sick and they have to take time off and they have to go to the doctor, but with the time off they don't have the money to then pay for the medical bill. So what happens then? And that's a whole other expense and stress on the ethnic groups. And affordable housing. Sometimes there isn't affordable housing in the areas that they're in. So how do they make sure that they actually have a roof over their heads for themselves and their families? And then of course the overall challenge of any ethnic group, they also have to face discrimination in this country. So this is where we actually go to a short clip. It's like a less than 4-minute video of this man called Quinn, and essentially he will talk about what he realized and what he learned when marrying his Hispanic wife, and kind of what she had to go through, and kind of like the taboo kind of biases that we have towards the Latino Hispanic immigrant group.
I'm here to talk about a much larger issue, cultural bias. And I speak about cultural bias from a unique perspective as an American married to someone who's not from the US during a time and a week in which immigration in our country is both hotly contested and debated. And we've felt the pain of this debate. Why? Because despite the legal protection that's granted towards documented immigrants in our country, this legal system does nothing to protect them from the hate, discrimination, or dehumanization they experience on a daily basis in the US. I was blind to this for most of my life. I grew up in rural Midwestern suburbs that weren't all that diverse, and I had no real reason to actively participate in the immigration debate until I met my wife. But when I met Isabel and we were married and we moved together to the US, I was exposed to this deep-rooted societal issue that is cultural bias. And it's damaging. It's damaging to our nation's values, and it's damaging to our nation's immigrants. I'll give you an example. It wasn't too long ago, Isabel and I moved from Georgia to Ohio, and when we did, we had to go to the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles, which I'll refer to as the BMV for this story. And we went simply to transfer our Georgia driver's licenses over to an Ohio license. And so we went together that day, we hopped in line. It's a nightmare as always, right? And you get up to the counter and we started to present our documents to get the driver's license. The first piece of documentation we submitted was Isabel's temporary green card. And I use the word temporary actually very purposefully, because the biggest myth in the unwritten book of immigrating to the US is that you can simply marry an American and get a green card. It could not be further from the truth, folks. It takes at least 3 to 4 years, a big investigatory process, numerous interviews, hefty fees before you're even considered for the permanent green card. Isabel and I have been married for more than 3 years and still don't have one, so I think that proves the point, but I digress on that matter. So we started to present the documents, the first of which was her temporary green card, and the moment the BMV rep saw that green card, the reaction we got was shocking. She got up out of her chair, began to raise her voice, in a very quick and accusatory way started demanding additional documents, including mine, which we hadn't yet presented. She looks at me and she said, "And where's your green card?" And I said, I don't have one. And she said, well, then you can't get a driver's license. And she pushed back our documents. She leaned over the counter, pushed us out of the way, and waved on the next people to become attended to. And when she did that, I grabbed her arm, I put it down, I said, beg your pardon. I said, I know, I'm so nice, right? I beg your pardon. I said, I don't have a green card because I'm a US citizen. And when I said that, she stopped dead in her tracks, looked up at me a little bit confused, and this is all she could conjure up, and I'll do the action. Well, why didn't you say so? And all I kept thinking was, why does it even matter? You see, US citizens can get driver's licenses, legal permanent residents can get driver's licenses, even foreigners with foreign driver's licenses can get a temporary international driving permit in the US. So what's it matter at all where you are from if you're in line at the BMV? And why were we being treated this way? The purpose of this story is to portray to you all that her tune changed entirely when she found out that I was an American. She was nicer, she was more accommodating, she was more patient. When she thought we were both foreigners, she had little to no patience at all to deal with us. And I imagine in that very moment, I was getting a small taste of what it might feel like to be discriminated against as an immigrant in this country.
Okay, so I'll kind of open this up to chat as well. Again, I'll do the same thing as last time, kind of give you guys time to answer if you guys want to. But how did you feel, initial reactions when hearing that story? And if you were in that situation, what do you think you could do? What do you think you would do? Or even from an outside perspective, seeing that, what do you think that you can do? Rosalind, it could be either or. Whatever it is that you feel like you resonate most, like you can, speak on. Not surprised since I've seen that happen. All right, so I'll kind of read these out loud as people go. Someone said, not surprised since I've seen that happen. I would tell the person that I'm disappointed for being treated that way and try to make them understand my viewpoint. All right, someone said it's a terrible story. It shows how far we have come to acceptance. Yeah, no, that is a powerful statement. Because yes, we have come so far, but there's just so much more that we can do. And I mean, that's where we're all here, right? Okay. If anyone wants to continue, feel sad and frustrated, treating people that way is not okay. Someone was said they would try to keep their cool and explain why their actions were disrespectful and rude. It made someone feel very frustrated. Yeah. No, that's true. A lot of people don't even know what it is that they're doing because it's so normalized in their, either their experiences or what they've seen or maybe the community they're in. Yeah, you're right. All right, if anyone wants to keep answering, they absolutely can, but these were great responses. Thank you guys so much for, answering, participating. Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead, Claudia, take it away.
Okay, so it's my turn. Cultural differences. Obviously, we talk about the culture and the way the Hispanic behave and how they encounter when they come here. It can be from the most minimal, simple thing that is just very difficult for them to comprehend. In their country, sometimes they don't have to make an appointment to go to see a pediatrician, they just show up. Here, you need an appointment for almost everything, right? You need to fill up forms for everything. And it's something that they're not used to. There is something that they can just don't know why. They can just show up and apply right away without an appointment. Or how come they just can send their children in the school bus and assuming that when they get there, they will figure out what grade that child will go, right? They don't know that they have to show up at the school in the summertime and register their children, that they need vaccination before they go to school. And this is how we can help them. This is how we can guide them and help them understand the way things work in this country. From a simple thing like making an appointment to have to open a bank account, how to talk to the teacher, how to do little things like that, that day by day, they don't understand. They don't understand why, if they were a doctor or an engineer in their countries, here they can practice that. They have to start from zero, right? So these are things that they don't know before they come, and when they get here, it's just become a big issue. And we all need to understand. We all need to be sensitive about these changes that they are going through, and guide them. The strengths in the Latino community, there are many. There are we, and I include myself, we are family people, we are hard workers, we resilient. We go through many things. I work with families that is not one thing. Is if it's not COVID, is the lack of money to pay rent, or they don't qualify to apply for housing. There are many things, and even with all that, they don't give up. They continue. They're resourceful. They know in our community where to go, what door to knock, and they know that will be welcome, and they know that they will help them. They're not afraid of work. They don't afraid to work 3 different jobs, and have 2 3 shifts in each job. They basically come for that dream. They come to survive and to provide a better life for their children. And I think they have proved to not only enrich even more the United States with their food, their music, their personality, and their culture.
Okay, so back to kind of assimilation and its even trends in specifically the Latino Hispanic community. Research has shown, as kind of said before, they're a little bit, um, immigrant groups are kind of either don't assimilate or they're not as quick to assimilate as they were in prior generations. But research also shows that Hispanics have been slower to assimilate than other immigrant groups. And it may not be because they're incapable or they don't want to. It's just that their goals or values may be a little different than other ethnic groups when they come in here, or maybe other immigrants who already know the language and know what it is that they're expecting once they get here. Because as Claudia said, they are very hardworking, but they may just lack, that business mindset that, the best way to do it is to kind of work your way up in a business, get your education, start something, and they kind of leave it to, not purposely, but it most likely sometimes falls into like the first generation children in this country because they're already in this country. They already know the deal, how to make it and all that stuff. And they themselves just kind of want to provide a future either for their children, or they kind of just want to get a job here because they are very hardworking. That's all they really know how to do, because that's just kind of the goals and values that they identify with, what they grew up with. Just be a hard worker, maintain your family, and make your money. And some immigrants and some ethnic groups actually just come here to work to then send money back to their families, back in their countries, because sometimes they sacrifice themselves to come here so then they can provide a better life for their families back home. Sometimes it's not that they even want to kind of have the American dream. They just kind of really want to maintain their family, and this is one way that they can do that. Or they're here just to save up enough money to then live comfortably back in their own country. Some people come here just kind of as a stepping stone to just do the hard work, again, maintain their families, but eventually some do just want to go back to their country and live as comfortably as possible if that's even available to them, depending on the reason why they came here in the first place. So another fact too that I kind of wanted to bring up is that even when families do assimilate, let's say they're here after for a second generation, the language is so important to them. that sometimes, you know, they may know English and they may learn English, but they feel more empowered when they speak Spanish, and that's something that they integrate into their homes. So even children, for example, like me, I'm Dominican. I grew up in a Dominican family. They were already here kind of prior. They already knew the process, and you would expect. You know, I was born here, but English is actually my second language because when I grew up until the age of 5, all I ever heard was Spanish within my family and my household. So I didn't really even learn English until I went to school. So that's also an example too. Okay, so I kind of had to assist. You know, we're all here to help, you know, the population, and we're all here to help the community. So how do we assist? Kind of recognize the essential skills such as persistence, resilience, reliability, endurance, compassion, self-discipline, all the things that Claudia was talking about as well. Kind of recognize as those are essential skills. And also just kind of meet them where they're at, you know what their goals and values are and how they can use their skills for their own goals and values, and not really what you think they should do or like, yeah, you think they should make it, because maybe they have their own version of what making it feels like. You know, as long as they're not, you know, harming themselves and they can actually accomplish their goals, that's also a way to like help them. You know, give a guiding hand, such as linking them to resources, provide positive experiences so they don't feel isolated from their communities. Reason I say that is because sometimes a lot of people are like, well, why don't they ask for help, or why don't they speak up? And it's just sometimes when they do, they're given the cold shoulder. Again, we are a very individualistic society. So sometimes they're not received well. They don't get the help, or they don't qualify for the help, and then they kind of feel desperate, they feel in despair, they feel, you know, sad, and they kind of feel like giving up, because even when they do reach out, sometimes they don't get that help. Which is why I say provide the positive experiences, provide the help, either provide even a listening ear, whatever it is that you can, just to kind of show them that they can be a part of this culture and there are people that are willing to accept them here. Because when they're kind of given the cold shoulder, either for speaking, you know, something as simple like speaking Spanish in a store, and someone tells them speak English, you know, it becomes really isolating, and that really ingrains, you know, what they think the culture, you know, will react to them and how everyone will react to them. And yeah, and then also respect, you know, religious beliefs. I'm pretty sure that goes without saying. Most Hispanic communities do come from Catholic and Christian communities, which I was just important to note, just because in the next slide, I kind of give a church that I think is in Hunterdon County or nearby, that, you know, you can even link families to if they feel like, you know, they want a, you know, religious community to kind of be involved in the community in that way. But religiously, there are churches that, you know, either do Hispanic events or they host mass in Spanish. And that can go to the next slide to kind of give you more resources. And by all means, if there's more resources in Hunterdon County or nearby, or, you know, anything you guys can think of, please put it in the chat. I would love to learn more about, you know, what is in the area for Latino Hispanic communities or anyone in general. And I'm sure other people in this presentation will too. And this kind of wraps up our presentation. So by all means, you know, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
So thank you so much, Claudia and Caitlin. That was amazing. I'm sure you would get a huge round of applause if this was in person. Before we start the Q&A, you guys can type questions in whenever you want. We are going to post the link to the SurveyMonkey in the chat. Now fill that out and you get a chance to win a $50 gift card. And also, if you're interested in the CEU for this presentation, you have to fill this out as well. So I'm going to post that in now. So that's the SurveyMonkey link. And then I just want to remind everyone that this Lunch and Learn series is a series, and the next one is coming up on February 17th. It's called Conflict and Anger Management. And I am going to post the link to sign up for that one as well if you are interested. And we would love to see you all again at that one. So without further ado, I think we have a couple questions in the Q&A section. So if you want to start looking at that. And also one last thing, if you missed that SurveyMonkey link right now, in the email I sent roughly an hour ago or so, I included the link in there as well in case you miss it in chat. So if you wanted to just focus on the Q&A now, perfectly okay. I'm going to pick a winner tomorrow, and I'll send an email out for whoever gets the $50 gift card. So look forward to that. All right, Caitlin and Claudia, if you want to go ahead with the Q&A, feel free.
So far, no questions. I just want to thank everyone for saying for saying your kind words, and I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the presentation. But yeah, like Nick is saying, if anyone has any questions, we'll of course answer it. If maybe you can't think of anything now, I'm sure our emails were provided.
Yeah, and they can always reach out to us here at Harvest Family Success Center. We are available. You can call us. We've been working remotely or in person, but we're here to answer any questions or any referrals.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
For heading our emails. Okay. What's also called
What a harvest. Yes, our main objective is to provide services for children and families. We offer many programs here. Well, not right now because we're closed due to COVID, but when everything goes back to normal, we have vegetables, free vegetable for families from spring to fall. We have ESL classes. We have also, I have a group of Hispanic moms that we meet twice a month. It's called Mama Sin Miedos, where we keep them informed with health, nutrition, postpartum depression, how to be a better parent. There are good moms, but always how to be a better parent. And I don't know, we have many, many programs. I can't wait for us to reopen so we can do it.
Okay.
All right, so I think we're going to end the webinar a little early so you guys can all get a little lunch. It is called Lunch and Learn, so we would be defeated if we didn't allow you to eat a little something early. So we're going to end it. Just if anybody has any issues, feel free to send me an email, nmarkintuno@njprevent.com. It's the one I sent you the link to earlier in the day. And I will get in touch with the winner very soon. All right, have a nice day, everyone.
Before we end, sorry, I think Lucy had a question. Someone asked if there's any idea on a time frame for even a partial reopening.
We don't know. We are waiting for the governor to tell us when or whenever we open. However, we've been very successful and very proactive and productive. Helping people over the phone and via Zoom, so they can contact us, and then we call them back and we can meet. We can make an appointment. I think that June, something like that, like midsummer.
All right, well, thank you everyone for attending. Have a great
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.